I'd like to call the July 20th Common Council meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Streeter. Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That is not on the agenda.
We will be wearing masks. We do have sneeze protectors. I'll be pulling mine up and down just to speak. So with that, roll call by the Clerk Treasurer, Parthun.
Councilwoman Brown.
Here.
Councilwoman Ficus.
Present.
Councilwoman West.
Here.
Councilman Galloway.
Here.
Councilwoman Cutler.
Present.
Councilman Frankie.
Present.
Councilman Vincent.
Here.
All present.
Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Before we go into the petitions and comments of citizens, we have a couple statements to read. Councilman Galloway.
I realize now, as a city councilman, I should keep my beliefs and personal feelings to myself while conducting city business. It was embarrassment to you, Mayor, the council, myself, and to the public. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councilman Galloway. I'd also like to add, before we begin, I'd like to talk briefly about our last city council meeting. Some things were said that are not at all reflective of our goals for the future of our city. LaPorte is a welcoming community, and we want people of all races, religions, and sexual orientations to feel welcome, safe, and happy here. On behalf of the entire city council and city leadership team, I apologize. We clearly have more work to do, and this actually opened our eyes on some of the ways we can improve. Our entire city team will be taking diversity training. We also met with representatives from out in LaPorte, and they shared even more ideas on what we can do in the future. We are grateful to these individuals who are willing to come and have an open discussion with us, and we're humbled by their unwavering love of this city and their commitment to help it improve. Again, we've got work to do, but we're going to continue to do all we can to make LaPorte proud. Are there any other comments or statements? Okay, I would also, before we go into petitions of comments, Mr. Otis, I'd like for him to just clarify the process of the Ethics Commission and what happens with any complaints.
After the last city council meeting, I know that the mayor's office had received some complaints, and we spoke with Mr. Galloway. It was in regards to the statements that he had made at the last meeting. We do have an ethics policy. We have a procedure if citizens wish to file an ethics complaint. We still have to analyze whether or not those complaints fall within the ethics policy. Generally speaking, all council members, not just Mr. Galloway, but Mayor Dermody, have, whether you agree or disagree, broad discretion under the First Amendment to make political statements. And so that is part of the political process. The United States Supreme Court has protected that consistently over the last 100 years. And for example, I printed this out just for the record. This is from the United States Supreme Court. The manifest function of the First Amendment in a representative government requires that legislators be given the widest latitude to express their views on issues of policy. The central commitment of the First Amendment is that debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, and wide open. Just as erroneous statements must be protected to give freedom of expression the breathing space it needs to survive, so statements criticizing public policy and the implementation of it must be similarly protected. Legislators have an obligation to take the positions on controversial political questions so that their constituents can be fully informed by them and be able to assess their qualifications for office. And so I know that there's many people that may disagree with Mr. Galloway's statement last 2 weeks ago, but it is protected, and the remedy, just as the Supreme Court said, is at the ballot box. But we will certainly take complaints if we receive them, but I just want to let, I guess, the public know that we've looked at this issue already. So.
Thank you. Questions? Petitions and comments of citizens, I'll ask if you could raise your hand. Everyone will be heard. And obviously you can't move to the podium, but please stand back if anybody has any public comments. Larry? I think. I couldn't see behind the shield.
My wife calls me Darth Vader with this on.
There you go. Please state your name and address.
Larry Pinkerton, 1612 L Street. Been there a long time. Before I get into this, am I just wasting my time about Detroit Street? Is it a done deal?
Not at all. I mean, it's still not finished. It won't even begin till 2022, and your voice will be heard.
Well, okay. Before you were mayor,
And I'm sorry, Larry, if you don't mind, if you could speak up.
yeah, before you were mayor, on 2018, December 20th, in the newspaper, the Porte, the city got a grant for $6,238,888 from the Indiana Department of Transportation for the construction of rail crossing safety in the heart of the city. So if you're doing construction, to me, that means you're building. And at one time, we were going to put up more crossing guards so that you didn't have to blow the whistle when you went down through town. So that's a lot of money, and I remember that when they proposed that. And then in July 3rd, 2019, in the newspaper, Nick Otis was talking. Not Nick Otis, I'm sorry. Nick Minnick. And he said the funding for the project is contingent on the closure of the other streets to the downtown area. Should the council accept the grant, both Detroit and Pulaski streets are expected to close. He went on to say that the North Fork Southern, their recommendation was that our application would not be successful with one closure and putting an overpass in, and encouraged us to look at some other alternative. I had a quote here. I think the first ward councilman was wanting to keep the crossing open at one time. Where is she? And there's Shear. She's not here anymore, right? Yeah. She made a comment that she thought that was limiting the first ward's ability to get around. And last meeting, they said something about there'd been 23 accidents in 30 years. That works out to 760-some days between accidents, and every fatality is terrible. But most of those accidents were caused because somebody didn't adhere to probably the crossings or the going over them. So I still think that Detroit Street would still be a viable way down into LaPorte, down in there. I can live with them closing Pulaski because they're got to come around, they're going to go into Linwood, and they're going to make the one-way, two-way from, what is that? Furnace Road?
Furnace.
Furnace Road. There's going to be two-way there. So I think that would help the whole situation, but I still think that Detroit Street should stay open.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Councilman, and thank you, the tree lady that helped me out over here.
I appreciate Larry.
You're
Every
welcome.
time he speaks, he's given a little more and a little more, so if we extend this out, you know, you might be on there by the end. But,
I'll give it a shot. Thank you.
thank you. But again, I just want to remind everybody, this is, you know, as you look at 2039 and you look down the road, that crossing, or the crossing will be blocked based on the data 62% of the time. And so think about emergency services, you talk to our fire and police, but also we have to have one way where you can cross at all times, and this would be it. So we'll have further conversation about that, Larry, and thank you. I did see hands up. Jason Milo, please come forward.
Good or bad, you know, we got first.
If you could state your name and your address.
Okay, I am Jason Milo, and I live at 600 Place Street, apartment B, and although not for very long, because I just got married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She's a wonderful woman. I'm here to speak on the comments that were expressed during the last council meeting. Mr. Galloway, after hearing your offensive and reprehensible words that you spoke, I want to express my disdain and embarrassment as a citizen of and from the Porte. As a city and a community, we are bigger and better than those small-minded words that you shared. Unfortunately, you are someone who markets our city, speaks for us as a community leader, and represents what others will now perceive as our city ideals. The actions that were displayed at the last meeting is not just a blemish on the face of our community. It is a cyst that we can only surgically remove. And that's how big it is, and I hope you realize how big it is. We now, as a community, city leaders, and residents must repair our reputation and show that we are an inclusive, loving, and knowledgeable city. And this will take years to undo. So I personally, in front of this group, I want to apologize as a citizen of this community for his actions and his words. This is not who we are. In your half-hearted apology, you stated that you should never let your personal opinions and beliefs get in the way of representing our community. That displays to me that you still feel the same way, and you're not going to change your ways or knowledge, but try and do a better job of masking what some of your ignorant thoughts are. I understand that you may try and save face by having this apology, but the phrasing of your words is not an apology, it's merely an excuse. I can foresee that you will go through some of this training and listen to the different communities, but at a minimal strength, because you have your own opinion. And that I will agree with. You are entitled to your own opinion. However, as a citizen, your opinion is not someone of whom I trust to represent our city on an equal and unbiased state. We as LaPorte citizens are better than your biased representation and should demand someone better than that. I hope that you will resign your post and recognize that we need someone with a much broader-minded thinking person in your position. As Mr. Otis just said, you can have the freedom of speech. However, you do not have the freedom of consequences from that speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milo. Would anybody else like to speak? Please raise your hand. Yes, ma'am. And again, please state your name and address.
Donna Johnson, 1037 Indiana Avenue. This is my first occasion to come here, and
Welcome.
I'm sorry to say that is the fact. And I live like 3 blocks away. Tonight I'd like to address one of the many issues that we have in our country, and there's too many to even list here tonight, but the one that's on my heart right now tonight is how do we go forward and protect our police, and how do we prepare for when the violence of a mob comes to LaPorte. And that's all I have. I put it before the council and the community that I see when I look on the news, city after city being brought into violence. and disruption and division. And I hear about diversity training, and I'm sorry to say that I think there's something lacking there too. But my concern is over our local police. How do we support them? I live right across from the police station, and they might know me, I walk all the time, but I went up to just say that I was supporting them, and that I could see that they were like kind of like watching me, because, I mean, I don't know, that's just my perception, that they were watching me out of love. What was I gonna do? Was I gonna pull a gun on them? Was I gonna start screaming at them? What? So I really am concerned about our police. I do not believe that our nation should defund our police. That is crazy, crazy. And I love the woman who recently I saw, she was ranting, she was a black woman who was ranting about, no, we don't defund the police, we refund the police, we support the police. The police are still that blue thin line, and I believe that with all my heart. And that's what I have to say.
Well, and thank you, and I can tell you this, we are not going to defund the police. We are moving forward to have a focus on our department doing what's most important, and that will come to a change for our community. They may not be chasing dogs. They may not be looking at issues with properties. We're looking at systems where our residents can file complaints via email, via phone, so an officer doesn't have to come out and can focus on the most important issues like you discussed. But I will tell you this, after seeing, we support peaceful protest in our community. We do not support and will not support people that want to come here and damage our community, damage our buildings, and we will stand for that. And these officers stood when we were told from Maryville busloads were coming to LaPorte next, and we barricaded every entrance into our city and met anyone that was going to come north of town here, because there's a difference between protest and disruption to our town and damaging our buildings. And I can assure you, I was very impressed with our department and how prepared they were to deal with that situation if it were to arise. So we always have more work to do, but we've got a great department. We have issues. We need more people. It's hard to afford those people right now. We have to keep the ones we do have, but we're going to continue to work to build the best department around. But I'm telling you right now, we have a great team. So thank you for your support. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
I was looking at the report for 2020 for goals for the police, and one of them is to increase police officers from the 43 you have now. Is that correct?
We're down to, I believe, 36, Chief, 35, 34 currently.
To 50 to 54. The national average per 10,000 people in a city is 15.9 officers, and I believe 20 personnel total. I was wondering why that, so right now we're right at the national average. We were over before. 50 to 54 would be almost double that. Why do you want to increase it to almost double the national average? And where's the funding coming for? Especially now when we know so much about different services the police could offer, not including police officers, but we could have social workers, stuff that would respond better. Why increase the officers?
Well, number one, if you look at the number of calls that are made, our officers are running from spot to spot to spot. If there's an issue, people just decide to call the police department. We have to get back that they are not everything to everybody and focus on what's important. Right now, if you look, we have 4 officers minimum on a shift, covering a city that is 22,000 people. Chesterton, we just lost an officer to Chesterton. They have 29 for a population of 13,000. Richmond, Indiana has 74 officers for a population similar to LaPorte, and we're right now at 34 to 35. We're continuing to lose officers, so the 50 to 54, we haven't been there, and I think, Joni, we looked at numbers. In 1979, they were at 39. We're not even there yet. We have to get to 44. It's burnout. The officers can't keep up at 35, and so I'm not sure about 50 to 54, but
What the goal, what it says in the
Sure.
report.
But I can tell you, we need to get to 44, and we also need, and I look forward to the healthcare professionals, not hired by the city, but the healthcare professionals that are in our community need to step forward and start making some of the calls. When we have a person mentally ill that's calling our department once to twice a week, police shouldn't have to go to those type of calls. We need professionals in mental health to handle the,
To get those people that need the help with those services they need instead of the police.
exactly. Well, and I need your support to talk to those mental health.
What's your plan to get those people to the help they need?
Okay, well, here's the thing. What are the mental health professionals' plan to get them the help that they do? We are not, you said yourself, the budget, we're not capable right now. And let's talk budget for a minute, and I don't mean to keep you. Right now, property taxes, we get $10 million a year in property tax dollars. We're losing $3 million right off the top to circuit breakers. So that's 30%. We're now going to lose probably close to $500,000 or to $1 million. So 40% of our budget on property tax is going away. Now, I'm not sure any businesses, any other companies can lose 40% of their revenue and stay afloat. And that's continuing doing roads, doing park department, doing transportation, everything else. So our plan is to work with the professionals in our community that need to step up and look and review how they do things so that our police department does not have to make those calls. So we need partners. We don't have the dollars to hire professionals, but we do have partners already in this community that have support for the drug addiction, for the mental health, that we need them to start taking over some of these issues.
I'll have to look for it and all of that, but I still don't think you answered any of my questions.
I think I answered directly. What?
Well, your report says 50 to 54 officers, which you're
That's not
even
my
aware of.
report.
Okay.
We're not going to get to
You were
44,
talking about your budget cuts, and right now you're at 35.
35. So we can barely get to 44.
Okay.
Yeah, 41.
I mean, no, I want to answer any question, but what I'm saying is, we have to work with the Swanson centers and these different,
You're saying you don't want to work with them, you want them to step up, so I'm confused. I don't understand why.
no, I'm saying we're partnering, but they need to do the part of mental health and do some,
Are you reaching out to them?
we are.
I'm not being defensive, that's a question. I
Oh,
don't-
no, I'm just aggressive because this is an important issue that's been ignored for too long. And putting an officer,
Your calls actually would benefit from, to not going to the police, but I don't, I guess being able to email calls in and stuff like that. That program sounds great. I would love to hear more information on that whenever you have it.
and those are minor calls, those are not mental health. Those are chasing dogs. Those are doing other things the police don't have time to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none, standing committee reports. Councilwoman Brown?
Yes, I attended the airport authority, municipal airport meeting about a week ago, and they are still hosting the week of August 12th, the flight show here in LaPorte County. So that'll be a whole week event, and just wanted to report that part of it. That's what I got out of that meeting.
Councilwoman Ficus?
Park Board met on July 15th. 3 bids came in, and Larson Danielson was the lowest bid for the Stone Lake Kayak Launch Project. Their bid came in at just over $123,000, which is $40,000 over budget. But Mark Schreiber said that he has spoken with them, and then they're quite certain that they can value engineer it down to within the budget. The Park Department also has a potential lease with the Maple City Bike Club for the old telephone building located at 1604 First Street. The Bike Club will pay $1 per year plus utilities for use of the building. The Healthcare Foundation of LaPorte has installed a water stop on the Chessie Trail. The Park Department agreed to do the maintenance on the stop. Basically, that's turning on and off the water at the beginning and end of the season. And also, permission was given to enact an athletics field policy. The policy states that there is no smoking or vaping allowed within 50 feet of chain link fence at all ball fields and tennis courts. That was that for Park Board. And then Traffic Commission will meet Tuesday, August 4th, 6 p.m. at the police station.
Councilman Vincent.
Our next Plan Commission meeting will be on Tuesday, August 11th at 6 here, Council.
Councilman Galloway.
No report.
Councilwoman Cutler.
The Business Improvement District Board met for their first in-person meeting at City Hall on Monday, July 13th. Tom Casey, the Director of Community Development and Planning, introduced himself, as well as Grace Roman, his new assistant to the board. And the Business Improvement Board, in turn, brought Tom and Grace up to speed on the partnership between the City Planner's Office and the Bid Board. The next meeting of the bid will be on Monday, August 10th. The next meeting of the Urban Enterprise Board is scheduled for Wednesday, August 19th. There was no meeting in July. That's it.
Councilman Frankie.
The school board is, well, they've got a tough situation at hand, and school may be in session full-time. It may be a mix. It may be all virtual, depending on how the community stands in the COVID outbreak at that time. I believe their decision will be made on August 3rd. They've adopted a stoplight system, green, yellow, and red, to identify green, everybody's in school, things are looking good. On the local COVID cases, yellow, we're seeing some increase and some caution, so they'll do a mix of in school and virtual, and red will be back to fully virtual. It's a fluid situation, as everything is, and I wish them the best in finalizing a plan for our kids. That's all I have to report.
Councilwoman West.
Nothing to report at this time.
All right. Recognition of life-saving actions by young LaPorte citizens. What a great story, and all that we're hearing these days across the country, the negative and the others. It's great to hear this story in our own backyard. And I'm going to ask Jerry Fulton, Drake Gunn, Wes Cabrera, and Tariq Jackson to come forward, please. Because I know they have a basketball game, I heard, at 7 o'clock tonight, so I know we have to get you in and out of here. By the way, we'll still be here, so Mr. Otis won't be able to play with you guys tonight. But, well, I'm just going to go ahead and if we could, I'll put Jerry, since I know, pull down your mask if you want, or take it off. Can you give us a little play-by-play of what happened 2 weeks ago on Sunday? And we will take a photo afterwards. And could you speak up for everybody in the...
We were driving down I Street, and then I was looking around, and then I saw a fire inside the garage, but they didn't see it with me. So I got to turn around, there's a fire in the garage. And then that's when Terry was like, "You're lying," but I wasn't really lying, because he was like, and then we turn around, and then we see the fire in the garage. We get out, we run to the house, we start banging on them. They weren't listening, or I don't know what's going on. We were banging on it, trying to go around, banging on the door, and then they finally opened the door, and they were like, "There's a fire in your garage." So then we had to, they wouldn't come out at first, so then we had to we went in, so Wes Cabrera went in there and basically grabbed them, told them to come out. So then after that, then the fire was in their car, and then the whole garage was just tore down, basically.
And, I mean, the fire was pretty, Jerry, do you mind sharing or introducing your friends here, your partners? Questions for these individuals?
No.
Jerry, you're in the military, right? What branch?
I'm in the Army.
Okay, where are you stationed right now?
Alaska right now.
Okay. Drake, you're playing basketball, college basketball?
Yes, sir.
Where are you at?
It's in Arizona.
All right.
And you'll be moving back to LaPorte, right? Tariq, Wes, tell us what you're currently doing. You're glad to be back.
Well, Your Honor, I'll say I know the family, and hopefully they've reached out to you, Jerry. I asked Mayor for your number to give to them, but they had asked me if I could figure out a way for them to contact you, because I know that they're super appreciative of what you guys did, and I think we all are as a community. You guys did an awesome job, and we appreciate it.
Right on.
We're going to bring in Courtney's going to give each of you a certificate, and Councilwoman West, we believe this is an effort that requires to give you the key to the city of LaPorte because of your efforts. You didn't think of yourself first. You thought of the family to help protect them, and we want to say thank you. And I know you all well, and you're exactly those kind of kids and young adults that we want to keep here in LaPorte, so thank you all. And you want to, Stan will take a photo without my mask on, so do you want to give them the keys here, and we'll take, Laura, do you want to come around and?
I'm going to read the certificate real quick. So it says City of LaPorte Excellence Award presented to Jerry Fulton in appreciation for his swift and courageous actions, putting his community ahead of his personal safety, alerting homeowners of a fire in their residence on July 12, 2020. So there's to Jerry Fulton. And Drake Dunn. Awesome job, everyone.
Courtney, Julie, you guys want to come up here or with them?
Jerry, I think you need Julie to prom. Julia Prather, did you go to prom? That's my niece. I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's right.
You guys in. We'll sit next to you.
Right in there.
Get your mask down.
Great.
Don't get mine away. One more time.
All right, let me get one as well. Sorry, guys. All right, on three.
Drake, show your certificate.
One, two, three.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay, we don't get to come out from behind our desks. You gotta give us some love.
Yeah, let's give the oil elbow.
You're awesome.
Way to go.
Sarcasm. That's awesome. I love that. Well, that was cool.
Right on.
Councilwoman Ficus, introduction of a resolution declaring Fund 635 bond debt service dormant and transferred.
Your Honor, I move to introduce a resolution read for the first and only time in its entirety.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilwoman Ficus.
A resolution declaring Fund 635 bond debt service dormant and transferred. Whereas the City of LaPorte, the city, LaPorte County, Indiana, finds that the purposes for which Funds 635 bond debt service was created has been fulfilled, and whereas the monies collected into these funds have not been appropriated and the funds have become dormant, And whereas the Common Council is authorized to transfer these unused and unencumbered funds into Fund 205 Rainy Day Fund. Now therefore be it resolved, the Common Council of the City of LaPorte, County, Indiana, hereby declares Fund 635 Bond Debt Service to be dormant and authorizes the Clerk Treasurer to transfer the remaining balance into Fund 205 Rainy Day Fund. Fund 635 Bond Debt Service, $3,051.77. Close the dormant fund and repeal any ordinances establishing the fund. This resolution shall be in full force and effective immediately upon adoption. All acts necessary to carry out this resolution are hereby ratified. End of resolution.
So can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I've got a little background if you'd like it.
Clerk Treasurer Parthun, if you'd like to give us a little background.
So this was the 2004 general obligation bond for park renovations. It was paid in full in January of 2017. This is property taxes received to pay the bond payments. And after speaking with our financial advisors at Baker Tilly, we were advised that we could, with council's approval, declare the fund dormant and transfer the money, and we would like to put it in the rainy day fund.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. City Council appointment of Ethics Officer. Do I have a motion?
Your Honor, I move to appoint an ethics officer, excuse me.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Frankie and a second by Councilwoman Ficus. Discussion?
We received quite a few applications of citizens that were interested in serving on the Ethics Committee, and it's a difficult choice, but ultimately we felt like somebody with a legal and strong ethical background would be an excellent fit for this committee. And I move to nominate Sarah Konechny for the position. And if it's okay with you, I'll read what she wrote prior to making that. So she wrote, I am writing to express my interest in the position on the Ethics Committee. I am currently a LaPorte County Deputy Prosecuting Attorney living in LaPorte at 1515 Michigan Ave. Since moving back into the area, I have wanted to contribute more to the city I grew up in. I think this committee would be a perfect fit for me both personally and professionally. Personally, I want the citizens of LaPorte to have the utmost respect in the actions and representations of our LaPorte leaders. And professionally, I have to make ethical decisions every day and make sure those also adhering to the ethical duties they are sworn to uphold. One of the most important aspects of being an attorney, if not the most important, is the ethical guidelines provided to us, which include independence, integrity, and honesty. Considering my background in law and my personal desire to see LaPorte thrive, I believe I would be a great asset to this committee.
I'd second the motion to appoint Sarah.
So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I believe both her and her husband grew up here too, is that correct?
That's correct.
Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And just to clarify, this ethics officer will only deal with issues that are related to either city employees or city elected officials.
Correct, right.
So this wouldn't be a private matter between a business and an employee, say, for example. This would only deal with employees or elected officials in the city.
Correct.
Other business. I would like to say, just add, you've heard us talk and discuss about landlords and holding low standards in our community and the problems where we're putting our police department at risk every single day. And we just talked about the police department where we're down to 4 officers per shift covering the entire city police. And last night was not a good night for our community. We have individuals that are renting that clearly don't want to follow the rules of our community. I'm going to give you, and especially when you look at Jefferson Avenue, we have one rental house, and I pulled this morning, thanks to Chief, 39 calls for service from January till today at the one location. And we're talking subject with weapon, injury, disturbance, welfare check, disturbance, harassment, unwanted guests, subject with weapon, civil matter, criminal mischief, battery, fight progress, intox person, suicide, unwanted guest, disturbance, fight progress, harassment, injury, threats, intimidation. This is one house. And we had 4 officers had to be at this one house yesterday. One had to have an automatic weapon because of the individual was carrying that they were trying to deal with. Now, we met with the Drug Task Force, thanks to Chief Breton today, the LaPorte County, and Councilwoman West was there. And we don't have big drug dealers in our community. And Mr. Otis was there. We have small users that are dealing to keep their habit up. And a lot of it. It's a major problem in LaPorte. But they're turning these rental homes into, as they call it, flop houses, where people are going back, using, dealing, and we have to continue to hold a high standard for our landlords. And some of the things I've talked to to Mr. Otis about is after one is deemed a nuisance property, there should be only a certain amount of nuisance violations before the city has the authority to condemn the house. And so we have to work on that, I believe, as a whole, and move these individuals on that don't want to be and follow the rules in our community. It's putting our officers, we can talk about, Chief Breton, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but do you mind coming up for a moment? We have three houses alone that I can name right now that put our officers in danger, 3 calls a night and so forth. And you can pull your mask down if you'd like, but it's demoralizing to our team. We lost another officer Friday. We had another officer had their tires slashed at home, and that was enough. They left after a certain amount of years. You just want to share the frustration, and rightly, we were asked about the amount of officers, and that's a fair question, but tell the difficult.
You put it best when you said we're constantly chasing our tails. And, we have the afternoon shift supervisor here now, and he's monitoring, his radio's been going nonstop. It's a constant thing. And we've talked about that, about eliminating some of these calls, where we send an officer to a criminal mischief where there's no suspects. That's why we want to get into this, so our officers can concentrate on the drug houses, on the speeding cars, everything else, that they don't have time to do police work. And I think that's frustrating across the country. We're not unique to it. You're seeing a lot of officers retire that never thought they'd retire. Going to Chesterton, it's a whole different clientele there. This officer's leaving because of retirement. It's going to boost his retirement. I don't know what the answer is. It's across country though, and it is frustrating.
And how many calls you shared with me, how many calls from January through June?
Oh, we're right at 14,000.
14,000 calls from January through June. And as we've tried to work with health providers and so forth, you go to the hospital for help, you go to other areas, and what do we hear today? Someone's from the hospital's chasing an individual out of the hospital, chasing them down Lincoln Way, or these type of stories.
Right, it happens themselves. When I worked midnight shift, we'd have people run out of the hospital and they'd be on the railroad tracks. And we're trying to get them off the railroad tracks when trains are coming, whatever.